Hello everyone, super excited to have this second session with Computational Mama. If you have not heard the previous session, I request you to go back and hit that play button of the first session with Computational Mama. And before we begin this session, I would like to request you to like, subscribe, share, and follow my Mix Masala with TG page in Facebook, in Instagram, and other social media pages. Thank you for listening, and let's begin.
But that's how this community is like,
Yeah.
it's very like, okay, theek hai, aa rahe bacha, aa jao, like that. So, and really like so many times I've met with these people whom I've only known online, and it's still been like we've known each other forever. Like yesterday I spoke to Jason and Ophelia. I've never met them, and they just video called me, and we had such a great conversation. So, it's really nice, this strange like internet friend community around creative coding.
Now that you are actually into this field, for me also, I think I can also express similar experience. Having this, it's not a conflict, but it's the visual artist and like the fine art people, who are doing the traditional sculpture, painting, artwork. Then you have the coders now. They are doing everything using technology. I think there's always some sort of, how do you say,
Friction.
yeah, there's some sort of friction, I think, whenever there's some residency coming up. And I know that they are into more of a traditional practice and things like that. I, still type in my proposal, and usually it's something to do with audio reactive, because that's the area for now I can do something, execute, and no response at all. I've been trying for so many grants and residencies, but there's some friction. Do you experience similar?
So, quite honestly, like my pre-coding practice was not focused so much on like myself individually, because I was always part of a larger team working on a vision and things. So I can definitely say that there are only very few, but I know it closely because my partner husband is also a artist. So yeah, definitely there is a. I think it's more than anything like for the grant givers, they don't understand the technology. A few of them who are like accepting it are probably accepting it because of the trends in terms of the buyers, like India Art Fair and things like that, which are sort of more forward in that sense to who's buying. So, and if they know that, okay, NFT is the market or digital is the market, they are a bit more forward with it. But obviously, they are not the ones who are benevolently giving money to artists. And the artist grantors, so obviously, they are a little bit behind on all of this. We can't help it. Like, it's just like, hota hai, like there is, so I don't know what your age is, but like I also meet people who are maybe say 10 years
I'm
younger.
29. I'm
29. Okay, so you're closer to my age. I'm 34. But I meet people who are like in the early 20s, and their outlook is so interesting and exciting. And it's up to the older generation to accept the new thing. Like, so there are people who do that. There are many people in the older generation who will accept something new and exciting, but obviously that they are few and far between. But really it's very difficult. Like, of course, like Be Fantastic, one of the few places where even that's where my start happened. I was in the 2020 fellowship, and I really was able to see myself as an artist who's using technology, which was something which I was not accepting until that fellowship. I just couldn't accept it. I was like, okay, I'm a creator and maybe I do a little bit of code. It was just not in my imagination to think of myself as an artist who uses technology. And that really like gave me that kind of confidence and lift. And they were also so like, I think being online was so useful for me because I cannot apply to things that are offline. I cannot go for a 2-month residency to Space Studio in Baroda. I just can't do it because my kid is too small, right? So I can have the best idea and the curator can love me, but I can't do it.
This is very interesting because I was doing my residency here in Space Studio because I stay in Baroda, and at that time it was the first time I did a audio visual reactive sort of performance there. Yeah, the response was like not so what I expected, and plus because I was focusing more on the industrial sounds So I had recorded live sounds from different places, from all the places that I was traveling during the COVID time. So you just have silence everywhere. But then there's different silences because I play around with the filters and compressions and things like that, and you start getting different white noises around. And of course, I kept some beats and melody that I had composed. And before the exhibition time, they told me that I have like around 30 minutes time to perform. So I was super excited because my piece, I knew that it was actually for like 10 minutes piece, but then because you can play with the parameters along, while you're performing, so you have one note going on and you can play around and then you can do a lot of different things, right? And I don't have a synth. I just have a normal MIDI keyboard, and so somehow I had mapped everything and like whatever. It's just full experimentation, and so I was like, okay. But then there was a speaker in front before me who was talking about some documentation that he had done, and that stretched for more than an hour. So basically, it took my time, and then when I saw the audience's face, number one, most of them were super senior artists. And the second was everybody was, I think, tired. When artists they give lectures, you want to keep it
It's
short.
exhausting,
and,
yeah. Sorry.
yeah. So you had this like, so you had all these people really exhausted, and I was also exhausted because I just wanted to go do and then get done with it.
Yeah.
Finally, I had just gone up. I didn't say anything to anyone about what I was doing, nothing. I just went there and I started playing. Suddenly, you have like this full electronic industrial sound going on everywhere. People were just like shocked. And then after 15 minutes, I just shut down everything and I'm out of the studio. Like, so
Good.
I mean,
Nice.
yeah, I think somewhere down the line, it's challenging for the generation that are coming up, who are working with technology, with AI, machine learning, that coming into these sort of spaces and trying to go along with the other art practice people, it's pretty challenging. Don't
Yeah.
you think? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I only know it externally, quite honestly. I don't understand the market too well, art market, but I think it's like every generation has its own
yeah,
challenge, right? So it's just that, and then I'm sure there are कुछ लोग तो होते हैं ना, like who understand and like are both appreciative of new things, who get it, who understand, okay, this is the way technology can be used, or this part of the practice is interesting, or for example, I met someone who's from a photography practice, curator है वो, थोड़े थोड़े हमसे उम्र में बड़े हैं, but he didn't understand the tech part, but it was very easy for him to catch on the feminist parts of it. It was easy for him to catch on what I'm doing with my practice, how it works out. So it's really like it's a mix of those things, but quite honestly, like it is sometimes so much about luck. It's about our privilege. It's about how we can explain ourselves, where we get to explain, what opportunities we get eventually. So, and this is a constant struggle. We'll always think that, oh, hamara, whatever we are doing is nobody gets it. Sometimes I don't even like to explain. If regular people ask me, what do? I just say I design websites. I don't tell them what I do. I'm like, I cannot explain to them what I'm doing and then try to explain to them how much money I have and all that nonsense. So I've just started to say that I make websites now. I just sit at home and I have a young child, so I've started to do web design, which for them is like very stark because they are still able to imagine museum design. और तब 5-6 साल में वो करती थी ना, तब किसी को नहीं पता था वो, तो तब मैं कहती थी मैं इंटीरियर डिजाइन करती हूँ.
oh,
So like वही बात है, like how much do you want to tell people versus how much they understand versus what do you like, do you want to sit around explaining or do you want to do the work? So like I am of the second this thing, and I now I observe it that without me having to say it, people are drawn to the work. So I don't I'm my messaging is clear now because I understand my trajectory a bit more and I know what I like and what I don't like. So I'm clear. I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm saying. Whoever comes, comes. If you don't understand it, it's okay. Maybe someday you will when you become a parent and you have to watch somebody's shit. So it's fine, you know. So it's okay. It's like that notion that I have been pushing for of being a person who is first a primary carer and then a creator is something I am very clear about now, and I understand it in a very specific way, because I've not just cared for my child, but I've also looked after my grandparents at some points. And emotionally, I look after my mom because she doesn't have a partner. My father passed away some years ago. So for me, that notion of care is much stronger in my life, and that practice of caring is more important to me than the work. Because if my family is not well, if my family is not in a position to feel comfortable, how can I continue a practice? So for me, like there's a very nice podcast. Maybe you will enjoy it. It's a very famous portrait artist called Amy Sherrill. She was became very famous for portraits of Obama and Michelle Obama and later of Obama, Barack Obama. And her trajectory started at 38, but because before that she herself had heart disease, she was looking after an aunt. So her only practice was she was going to a restaurant as a waitress, and she sometimes was able to paint, right? And everyone has their own path and like life trajectory. So somebody is doing amazing stuff at 29, somebody is doing it at 34, somebody did it at 5 only. So and like so it's all our trajectories, how we handle it, really. And that podcast was very nice because it spoke about care in a very like loose context, but still you could understand where she's coming from, where like वो नहीं कर सकती थी practice उसको. She had to look after her family member, or she was in hospital herself. So in that context, how do you practice? So it's really like just that. And I think drawing from that idea of your own space, which is always like a very common thing that people say in art, or draw from your own practice and your own life. For me now, I find that to be very truthful. Like, I think the reason they say it is because it gives, it lets you speak truthfully. And I think that is the core of doing any kind of creative work, right? To be honest and truthful, whatever that truth might be. Like if you're looking at larger environmental level or political or whatever that might be, or something as simple as whatever I'm doing. So
I believe what you shared now is very important, because I think it's after this conversation that I now kind of get the idea of the latest works that you are doing with AI, and how you were projecting also the concept of woman or mother working. Could you elaborate a little bit more?
Wow, you're
share
so good
a
at
little
like
bit
navigating
this?
the questions. I'm so impressed.
I don't know.
Amazing
There's no script
sensibility.
or anything. There's no script
Yeah,
or
I
anything.
know,
We
but you're so
just-
good at it.
is it okay? Like,
Yeah, so it's really nice the way you
because
navigating.
I mean, there's a very organic conversation happening.
Yeah.
That's how I do. I think it relates a lot to the recent works that you are doing. I think it would be really wonderful for the listeners to know about this.
That it was very much a fluke, quite honestly, because when I saw this AI stuff coming out, like of course that style gan and all, I think Hassan would have shown you also in the fellowship and everything, art breeder and all.
Yeah.
But I wasn't able to like really like click. It didn't click to me, and then I don't know. Somebody was like, "Okay, there's this new thing." Oh, I know. It was from your session only. Uma, you remember Uma and the Whale Tales guys?
Yeah.
So I was talking to Uma about it, and Uma, of course, doesn't have a technology background either. She's an artist. So she's like, we all were trying the VQ GAN, and the results that I was getting were very different from the other members. And then it struck me that they're all talking about whales only. Like, why is it so different? Like, what is it that she's doing? And then I thought, maybe is it like a simple guess, is it just a gender thing? Like, is it just that? So then I started looking at it more, and I was experimenting. And then mainly kya hai? Like the main key thing about doing prompting in AI is knowing art history. And who knows that better than an art or a graphic design student, right? You have to like, it's like if you don't know it, they'll not even give you a degree maybe. So so you're forced to know it. So then it also made me feel like, oh, okay, so this is what it's all about. So let me see what happens if I give something very basic that I have to do as a carer on a daily basis, and map it to an artist's work.
Mm-hmm.
And the results were very interesting. And I was at that time reading a book which has now sort of become my Bible almost. I mean, in its no way something that may resonate with you. But it's called Baby on the Fire Escape. So it's this really amazing book written by Judy Phillips, which has biographical excerpts from women artists' lives who were mothers.
Okay.
And how their practice was. So
Okay.
even the introduction is very like, if you imagine an artist in a studio, firstly you'll imagine it to be a man, then you'll imagine it to be like a space which is isolated, where they are with their work, where there's no disruption, where they are able to work as long as they want without anybody interrupting them. Whether that means it's like totally shit and nobody has done jadu, or whether that means that it's totally pristine.
Mm-hmm.
So everything in the environment is controlled by the artist, in their living environment, in their working environment. But as a mother, you never have that privilege. Even if my child is in school, right now, even in this interview, he's still there. He's a really big part of my brain right now.
Yeah.
So, and the practice is very much interrupted constantly. Sometimes when he's back from school and I'm working on something, I have to get up every minute to help him. Mummy, give me scissors. Mummy, give me this. Can you help me with this? Can you read this letter out to me? So, and any parent would tell you, and parent can, even if you have a grown up who's say like an elder or a nani, dadi, grandparent who's at your home, if you sit with them 5 minutes, you will see the same response. Okay? Because they are also equally, they're physically, sometimes they can't do things. They can't reach a cupboard. They can't open something. They can't put a button. So that micro control of your fingers, children and senior citizens of like say super seniors 80 plus, very similar. Even mentally they start becoming similar. Anyway, so this interrupted practice was the entire sort of notion of the book. And Baby on the Fire Escape comes from uh, an anecdote from a chapter on Alice Neal, who was an artist, portrait artist, about how her family was like, oh, she's so much into her art, she'll leave her baby on the fire escape and still continue her painting.
Okay.
So notionally, that idea of a perfect mother is that she's always looking after the child. But as an artist or even as a creator, even as a staff member in a corporate, I'm always going to be torn between my child and my work. And and you'll not believe how efficient as a professional I've become because of my child. Something I would take 8 hours, I can now bang it out in 2 hours. And it's not because I've become more experienced. It's purely because I know the bus is about to come, so I have to finish this work. I have no choice. I cannot dilly-dally. I have to do it because I have to still prove myself as a professional. There's nobody's going to say, hi, you have a kid, so just it's okay if you give it tomorrow. Everybody wants what they want right now. So and that's fine. I mean, it's like that's something we live with. So that whole idea of constantly having your brain somewhere else while your practice is going on, or not having those ideal spaces to work in. Like the day before, I had put a picture. No, all of Yugen's toys were around me. Sometimes I can't move my chair. He will arrange his toys around me while I'm working. So like it's difficult for me even to lift out of this space. But it's interesting. It's like now I've learned how to like navigate through that thing. It's not easy, but definitely it's become now part of what I'm talking about in my practice, and that's this Baby on the Fire Escape really gave me that, because it has conversations with authors, writers, even Ursula Le Guin, the famous fantasy writer, or Audre Lorde, Alice Neal, of course, Loris Lessing. So you really, like, I got to see, okay, if they could do it, we can also do it. Yeah, we have more help also sometimes. So it was very nice to see that, because like sometimes it happens, like I'm making a note on my phone, I'm playing with Yugen, and maybe I can only action it 3 days later. You know, there's no like epiphany आया तो अभी computer खोल के चालू कर. Never, I cannot do that. You know, and much of my workflow is like that. Like I have half of it on an old laptop, half of it on this PC, half of it is on my phone. You know, and I have to figure out a system that like allows me to traverse that, because sometimes he'll say, okay, mama, today please come and sit with me in the other room, I want to play there. I don't want to stop working, so I just take an old laptop. Of course, my practice gives me that privilege that, okay, I have a laptop, so I can move around, or whatever that might be. That I don't have to sit and sculpt something, or it's not dangerous for my child to be in my workspace. I'm not like welding, or I'm not using some paint which is not safe for children, or whatever. But there are many times when he'll come and just bang on my computer and I lose the work. He's dropped my audio interface, brand new audio interface he's dropped. Sometimes he pushes the laptop because he doesn't realize he's small. And so you have to live with those things, and that was what was really nice. So it's like you're mapping this space, like how Julie Phillips puts it, is between motherhood and creativity. There's a blank spot, and people don't know about it. So, you can see me as a creator, but you may not see me as a mother. You may see me as a mother, but you may not see me as a creator. For me to put out so much work, I sleep 4 hours, but you still sleep 4 hours, right? As an artist. So what does that mean? Like, what does it mean to finish your work at 2:30, but no, you need to get up at 6 because you need to get your son ready for school? So, but what it really does for me, especially I feel now, it really grounds me. Like, I know, okay, what's my priority? I know this is how much I can do. I know that, okay, someone invites me, come for a 1-day talk to India Art Fair. I can't go. No, I cannot go. Here is the number of another person. Please tell them. And I have to accept that I will not be speaking this time at India Art Fair. My voice will not be heard. But they are not ready. Places like that are not ready, because they are not saying that, yes, we know you are managing your child alone. So just come online. We'll put a screen, you join on Zoom. Nobody's saying that to me.
True, exactly.
So they're like, acha, aa jao na, ek din ki baat hai, we'll help you manage the child. No, you cannot help me manage my child. I'm sorry. It's not the same. I do not have the same privilege. I don't have a full-time staff member to look after my child. He's going to school. He needs to be in school. I can't just like pull him out and go take him wherever I want to. And in in the art fair in the summer, it did happen that we were there. I was with Yugen, but I couldn't spend any time there because it was 42 degrees. So, so I was very lucky because BF team was really good and they managed everything for us. But I couldn't network with people. Nobody knows मैं कौन हूँ, like, two of my pieces were there.
Okay.
But but मैं किसी से नहीं मिली. किसको पता मैं वहाँ थी? Like जंगल में मोर नाचा किसने देखा? So which doesn't bother me specifically personally, but I feel like there are many mothers out there who need that networking time, who need to be out there, who need to be able to give that kind of energy and time to do all that, but they may not get it. And sometimes it's just a mixture of our own guilt of leaving our children. But many times it's because the spaces don't say and explicitly say.
Yeah.
So even when I apply to a residency, I first check, will they allow for my family to come? Is it more than a year? So I know that 1 year Yugen has to do school somewhere else. I have to check those things. And every opportunity that someone without a primary carer role gains is an opportunity that someone who's not in a primary care, who is in a primary care role is losing, And because मैं नहीं अप्लाई कर सकती यार, और मेरे को स्टूडियो कोई रेजिडेंसी स्पेस ये नहीं बोल रही है कि अंबिका विल गिव यू दैट सेम बजट, यू डू इट एट होम. Nobody is saying that. And I'm wondering why, because many places have women who are probably mothers themselves. So, like for me, this is always a very surprising.
Yeah, sometimes I feel, even though galleries are in positions to actually give the support that is needed, somewhere down the line, I think it's again like all about, I know this person, so we'll give the opportunity to them, and so on.
No, but the galleries know me. They're still not. They're still not
Okay,
calling me.
okay,
Right?
okay.
Because it's very simple. It's like, the person has to be there. No. Like for them, that's important, and I understand that because that's a logistical thing for them. They need to run their resources as well. But it's not like they don't want my voice. They want my work. They are excited about it because uh, everyone wants to talk about care economy now. Everyone wants to talk about it, especially after COVID. But you don't want to address the fact that a carer cannot move out of their space.
Yeah.
So it's fine. I mean, I get it. It's like
I think
10 साल बाद पता पड़ेगा. ठीक है कोई नहीं.
ये फिर भी, and I think it's because of the internet, with the works that people do with generative artworks. Again, we have that possibility to reach out globally.
Yeah.
I mean, we have Instagram, social media pages now. Everything is like everywhere. I was trained in sculpture, right? तो अभी मैंने एक sculpture बनाया, तो उसके लिए अब जगह चाहिए. I cannot make it really big
At home,
because the
yeah.
place that I stay is very small. I took it out as a temporary place before this COVID happened, and then I ended up living here for like now, I don't know how many years. But so with space you cannot do much also. और स्कल्पचर वगैरह पेंटिंग ये सब के लिए क्या है कि फिजिकल है तो you need that actual space. Whereas in case of coding and things like that, it's a very different space. Virtual space is there, and in that way it's very convenient, I would say. But I think we still need to have galleries opening up to this world, because there are a lot of people who want to try it out, who are trying something, and I think with your recent work, using AI, right? You used AI, right? And so we just want to talk a little bit like how you got into it. Like were you coding some things and then you selected certain images? What was the process that you had gone through?
It's more like for me again, that voice to collaborate with the computer is important. So for me it's like, how many mothers can you generate? Show me. That's really the challenge I'm giving it. So I just started with simple terms like, okay, mother, give me a mother. And the AI is also developing. So like, pehle only white mother used to come up in Dali and all this. But now it's
white
changed.
Mother means foreign,
like foreign.
Yeah.
But now it's changing. Now you see other colors and things also. Because notionally, even these things are very interesting. I don't know if it'll interest you to read, but in terms of practice, especially in the Western spaces, what a white mom can do is very different from what a brown mom or a black mom can do. Of course, I am in a very privileged space here in India, just by virtue of my surname, and the virtue that I have. I'm English speaking and all of that. But so that was what I was looking for. So then I started looking at that idea. Then I was looking, okay, what is a tired mom to the AI, and then what is a working mom to an AI? What is a mom with a computer, which is basically me? What is a mom folding clothes? What is a mom?
So these questions, these are sets of questions that you would feed into the computer.
No, it's just me internalizing first, and then you have to describe it to the AI. Right. So like the more detailed the description, the more detailed the artwork comes out. But so for example, the new ones with the tentacles was very much like that. Like I'm looking at what does it mean. Like I feel like an octopus in some ways.
Yeah, because you
have to be everywhere.
Work.
ये भी करना है, वो भी करना है, ये भी करना है. So that was just what I started to describe to the AI. Okay, it should look like this is what. But now it's so advanced that some things it figures out on its own, you know. And then, you know, like the style really makes a difference. So like the anime stuff, because in anime
Yeah.
tentacles are common, right? Those creatures are common, you know, especially in like the porn stuff and all. So whatever that data set it's feeding from, it was very easy for it to like develop that kind of those tentacles out of my body. Uh, but it was not so easy to do it without that anime prompt. Also, similarly, like when I've stopped using artist styles now because of all this kind of stress about all of this happening on the internet. But so, like, if I say by Amy Sherrill, it'll always give me a brown mom or like a black mom. But if I say Alice Neal, it'll give me mostly a white mom. But Alice's portraits are very like they have the sadness in them, whereas Amy Sherrill's portraits are very much about pride. So the people look very, you know, stately and they look very stoic. So that shows in the portrait. So the tired moms look, if made by Amy Sherrill, look different from Alice Neal in that way. Uh, and then those were things that I was trying to play with, like what does it mean for one style to build the mom versus another. Or if I use those, you know, regular AI जो लोग NFT वाला market करता है, उसमें मेरे mom comes with some armor and like very big boobs and, you know, she looks beautiful and she doesn't have a baby around her. So sometimes there's no mom, it just like shows me a woman, like there's nothing about her which is a very mom like image. So it's just a play of words. It's like how you are talking, like an art director talking to an artist. Like ऐसे बनाओ, do this, try this, don't do this, do that. So it, and you have to keep working on it. But what's interesting is that it has its own bias. So there's one piece which I haven't put out because I just feel like I don't know what to do with it. It's where I just said tired mom in a room, and then I tried to like animate it to tired mom on a big wasteland of toys, right? And that first tired mom is white, but when she's on the wasteland, she's become black. And I didn't do anything to it. I just changed the location. I didn't say white tired mom or black tired mom. I just said tired mom.
Oh.
So syntactically, it's reading it in a certain way, which is very biased. And for me, that's interesting to see what are the peripheries of the data set rather than trying to build a perfect image, you know, to be able to. And I think
a lot of the time
go ahead.
when I'm researching or, you know, trying to figure out certain things through the internet, you know, I sometimes feel like, okay, person who is putting it all this information also has a bias sense. He or she might have a way of looking at things, not in order to term it as a bias outlook, but then we have our likes and dislikes, right?
Yes.
And accordingly we try and project things, you know. And like example, now you have this really recent face app. You see a lot of, and everyone is animating themselves and having very different way of looking at things. It's always more focused on the beauty. The idea of beauty is very different also now in the animated world also, how lips and the eyes and all these things, you know, that which is usually like not the reality, but then, you know, how people perceive.
Exactly. Like sometimes it's not so like but that's the thing with bias and like things with racism and things like, or like casteism, that आप explicitly नहीं, you're not being explicit about it, but you're not putting yourself in a position where you can have more knowledge about it to make sure that that bias isn't embedded into your technology. You know, because ठीक है मैं white male हूँ, पर इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि मैं aesthetic scale बनाता हूँ तो उसमें से women ही they should be. So what happens now? Suppose I'll tell you a very interesting. Give me a painting that looks like Picasso's painting. Okay, and then I put a prompt, give me a painting that looks like Amy Sherrill's painting. In Picasso's painting, it may look a lot like a painting made by Picasso, but for Amy Sherrill, it will look like her. The reason is that what happens is that the first thing it picks up is the name of the person as a rule of thumb, and then it identifies the gender, and there is an aesthetic scale. And obviously, a portrait of the artist will have a higher aesthetic scale than the portrait itself. especially if it's done by someone who doesn't understand art history, right? So it's just like, yeah, if you go out on the street and talk to a technologist, no, not even a regular person, if you say, okay, name me two artists, will he be able to name KG Subramanian, right?
Yeah.
They may name maybe Picasso Max, or like, I don't know, maybe somebody Western, somebody they have seen a reference somewhere in a book, or can they, they can't even give you one like very famous Indian artist who's like literally set up an entire, and that too in Baroda. That also I can claim very easily and say that one techie sitting in Baroda will not. That's the kind of like general like lack of knowledge we are working with, which is okay. Like, okay, not everybody knows, but if you're making an AI tool specifically for art, I feel that this is an inherent knowledge that you should have. Why should you not like have that kind of already set into your data? Anyway, but we can't help it. So now everyone is going for that very perfect look. Don't want extra hands. Don't want it should look very like tone should look really like smooth and even Lensa, I think the app you're talking about is the same. Like it makes you look really like beautiful in that way.
I think what I say. Thank you for listening. We end this second session with Computational Mama here, and I hope with her stories and her experience, it has inspired you to also take a look into what coding is and all the possibilities that are there. You can get in touch with her through her Instagram page, and if you have any queries about art and technology designs and you are seeking to learn, you can get in touch with me for art classes online. Stay tuned for the last third session with Computational Mama.